In January 2010, a white Pontiac G6 rolled out of General Motors' Orion assembly plant in Michigan. There was no thunderous V8, no screaming tires, no triumphant crowd, just an ordinary four-cylinder sedan carrying one of the most extraordinary names in American car history toward extinction. Behind it stood 84 years of innovation, wide-track engineering, NASCAR victories, the GTO, the Firebird, the Trans Am, and an attitude that helped create the American muscle car era. Pontiac did not disappear because people suddenly stopped loving exciting cars. It disappeared because General Motors spent decades weakening the very identity that made Pontiac valuable. And when the financial crisis arrived, GM killed the brand it had already made expendable. This is how Pontiac rose from a bargain companion car to America's performance rebel, and how its own parent company slowly destroyed it. Pontiac's story began in 1926, but not as an independent company. General Motors created it as a lower-priced companion to Oakland, one of GM's existing brands. The idea was simple: offer buyers a smooth six-cylinder engine at a price closer to many four-cylinder cars. Pontiac was supposed to support Oakland. Instead, it outsold it. Within a few years, the cheaper companion had become more desirable than its parent. Oakland disappeared during the Great Depression, while Pontiac survived and settled into GM's carefully arranged ladder, above Chevrolet but below Oldsmobile and Buick. For decades, Pontiac sold sensible, dependable cars. But by the mid-1950s, sensible had become forgettable. Pontiac sat sixth in the American sales rankings. Its cars looked conservative, and rumors suggested GM might fold the division into Oldsmobile. Then Seaman Bunky Knudsen took control in 1956. Knudsen understood that Pontiac did not merely need new cars, it needed a new personality. He removed dated chrome, recruited ambitious engineers, backed racing, and pushed Pontiac toward younger buyers. Working with men such as Pete Estes and John DeLorean, he turned performance from a side project into the brand's reason for existing. The transformation became visible in 1959. Pontiac introduced its lower, wider, wide-track stance, a split grille, and a larger 389 cubic-inch V8. The new cars looked planted, muscular, and unmistakably different. Sales jumped by nearly 57%. Pontiac climbed from 6th place to 4th, then reached 3rd in 1961. That year, Pontiacs won 30 of 52 NASCAR races. This was no longer the quiet division GM had considered eliminating. Pontiac had become dangerous, even to the other brands inside General Motors. Then came the decision that changed American car culture. For 1964, GM's internal rules limited the engine size of its intermediate cars. Pontiac engineers Bill Collins and Russ Gee realized that the division's 389 cubic-inch V8 would fit inside the new Tempest Le Mans. Chief engineer John DeLorean approved the idea. To slip around the restriction, Pontiac did not initially make it a separate model. It offered the big engine as an option package. That package was called GTO. For less than $300, a customer could transform an ordinary mid-size Le Mans into a 325-horsepower street weapon, with dual exhausts, heavier-duty equipment, hood scoops, and GTO badges. Pontiac expected roughly 5,000 buyers. It sold 450 in the first model year. The GTO was not the first fast American car, but it perfected a formula Detroit could no longer ignore. Put a big engine in a relatively light, affordable body, and market it directly to young drivers. The horsepower war had begun. By 1966, annual GTO sales approached 97,000. Pontiac was not following culture anymore, it was creating it. The Firebird arrived in 1967, sharing its basic structure with Chevrolet's Camaro but wearing Pontiac styling and, crucially, Pontiac engineering. The Trans Am package followed in 1969 and eventually became bigger than the performance figures printed in its brochure. It became a symbol. Emissions rules, insurance costs, and the oil crisis weakened the classic muscle car market during the 1970s. Yet Pontiac found another way to sell excitement. The black and gold Trans Am in the 1977 film Smokey and the Bandit turned a car into a cultural event. The giant hoodbird, shaker scoop and defiant shape promised drama, even when government regulations were squeezing horsepower. Pontiac understood something many engineers miss. Performance is not only a number, it is a feeling. But inside General Motors, The conditions that created Pontiac's greatest cars were changing. Shared platforms were not the problem. The Firebird had always shared bones with the Camaro. The difference was that Pontiac's engineers once had enough freedom to turn those bones into something recognizably their own. Over time, that freedom narrowed. Dedicated Pontiac engines disappeared. Corporate platforms, transmissions, and powertrains spread across multiple divisions. The differences increasingly moved from the mechanical parts underneath the car to grilles, spoilers, badges, and plastic body cladding. Pontiac could still produce flashes of brilliance. The mid-engine Fiero was daring. The Grand Prix and Bonneville had loyal buyers. The final Firebird still delivered serious performance. But the brand's lineup no longer carried one clear engineering philosophy. Pontiac's advertising continued to promise excitement. Too often, the showroom offered a more aggressively styled version of something available elsewhere inside GM. That created a lethal question. If Chevrolet could sell a similar car for less, and Buick could sell a more luxurious one, why did Pontiac need to exist? The Pontiac Aztek became the most visible warning. Launched for 2001, it was a genuinely forward-looking crossover with flexible cargo space, removable interior equipment, and an optional camping package. The market would soon become obsessed with vehicles that blended cars, minivans, and SUVs. Pontiac reached that future early, and still failed. Its styling overwhelmed its clever ideas. Its price was too high for many younger buyers, and all-wheel drive was not available at launch. Instead of restoring Pontiac's reputation for intelligent rebellion, the Aztek became a symbol of confused product planning. But the Aztek did not kill Pontiac. It simply made the deeper problem impossible to hide. In 2002, Firebird production ended. Without it, Pontiac lost one of its last unbroken links to the performance identity built in the 1960s. Then, almost too late, GM began remembering what Pontiac was supposed to be. The GTO returned for 2004 as an American version of Australia's Holden Monaro. It had real rear-wheel drive performance and V8 power, but conservative styling and limited marketing prevented it from recreating the original car's cultural impact. The two-seat Solstice Roadster followed and immediately attracted thousands of orders. Then came the Australian-built G8, a handsome rear-wheel drive sedan. In GXP form, it offered a 415 horsepower V8 and an available manual transmission. These were credible drivers' cars. They also arrived after years of damage, into a dealership network filled with less distinctive models, supported by a corporation running out of money. Pontiac was finally becoming exciting again, just as General Motors was losing the ability to save it. In 2008, the global financial crisis crushed new car demand. GM's debts, high operating costs, and sprawling collection of brands became impossible to defend. Pontiac's United States sales fell from 348 vehicles in 2008 to 300 in 2009 as the division was wound down. GM needed government support and a drastic restructuring. Chevrolet survived as the mass-market brand. Cadillac survived as the luxury brand. Buick had enormous strategic value in China. GMC had strong customer loyalty and attractive profits from trucks and SUVs. Pontiac had heritage. But heritage was not enough. Former GM executive Bob Lutz later said Pontiac had been mismanaged for years and had failed to make money over the preceding decade. The exciting rear-wheel drive future he envisioned for the brand could not erase its recent financial record. On April 27, 2009, GM announced that Pontiac would be phased out. The official argument was survival. GM said it had spread its resources across too many products and too many brands. Keeping Pontiac alive would require unique cars, serious marketing, and years of investment, exactly the things GM could no longer afford. And that reveals the brutal truth. Pontiac was not killed in a single meeting in 2009. That meeting merely signed the paperwork. The real destruction happened gradually. Every time Pontiac received a corporate clone instead of a unique machine. Every time styling was used to imitate performance. Every time a promising car arrived without enough investment, patience, or marketing to succeed. GM weakened Pontiac's reason for existing, then used that weakness as the reason it had to die. The final dealer agreements expired on October 31, 2010. A brand that had survived the Great Depression, helped ignite the muscle car wars, and turned affordable performance into an American obsession was gone. Yet Pontiac still matters. because its greatest cars proved what can happen when talented engineers are given a clear mission and just enough freedom to break the rules. The GTO was not born from a committee asking how to share more parts. It was born when engineers asked what would happen if they placed the right engine in the right car, and refused to let an internal rule kill the idea. That rebellious thinking built Pontiac. Losing it destroyed Pontiac. If you enjoy the engineering, ambition, and corporate decisions behind the machines that changed everything, subscribe to Rivets and Redlines. Next, we uncover how General Motors created GTO to beat Japan, then killed it only 8 years later. Pontiac did not die when the final G6 left the factory. It died one compromised car, one shared identity, and one lost piece of rebellion at a time.